this was LeeJaegon Tower, as far as I can tell from Twitter. I watched the highlights of this. So Seoul, I've been molding watching Seoul this stage, because they've been winning whilst playing the dumbest shit. I mean, Jess just been playing a lot of Roadhog. They were running Marvel on off-tank, playing Marvel Zarya on Junkertown. Oh, and yet they've still been able to get some wins. I'm in peak mold as a Seoul sympathizer. As a Seoul apologist, I've been in peak mold because I really did think that Seoul Dynasty were going to get on the right track this season, and everything I've seen from them in the June Joust has lost faith for me. Because even though their win rate in the season is still pretty decent, they haven't been doing it in what I would consider to be a correct method, in that they've just been doing the same old Seoul shit where they throw stuff at a wall and they're able to get through via chaos. They're not going for percentage plays. They're not trying to better their team coordination. They're not learning lessons that are going to be useful for them in future metas. They're just kind of fucking winging it. I don't expect Seoul to be particularly great now that they're trying to play more meta stuff. Alright, so Seoul, they teleport to point. They're running a Mei here as well. So a lot of, again, kind of Mei melee kind of compositions where you're running the Symmetra, you're running the Mei. It's a well-known composition. It's a good composition. I don't think it holds up against Moira Lucio, though, because when the Seoul Dynasty's comp ends up taking this back area, if Shanghai was a North American team right now, if we imagine the Shanghai Dragons and the Dallas Fuel, who are going to play against Shanghai, they take all of the point space for free. They engage into you. You have a cliff at your back. You can't disengage. You die. They generate coalescence. They poo on you. And, I mean, they have the Lucio to do shit like this to you, too. But nobody's doing what LeeJaegon is doing. As for Shanghai Dragons' composition, the double hit scan is an odd choice. I wonder what they would run if they were playing against Dallas, playing the rush comp.
Shanghai Dragons know it as well. They're going to get aggressive, try and get some, a good tickle damage.
Because I don't think Soldier helps you. It's not the most terrible pick in the world. It just doesn't help. Oh, Prophet dies as well. Still had Ice Block up. Oh, good body block. What a fucking body block by Fate. You guys see that shit? Holy. Shanghai, though, very proactive and coordinated here with how they're taking these fights, applying a shit ton of pressure to Seoul. They're playing this very quickly, and they're trying to get value out of all of the halts. Yakpung's halts did generate pretty decent value for New York, but the whole team was not quite as coordinated. I've already seen all of these LeeJaegon boops, which is why I'm not nutting, but I would have done if I watched it live. I'm not a fan of Lip McCree, it's got to be said. Lips McCree is incredible. Lips McCree is unbelievably good. I don't know whether he fed in this game or something for you to say that, but historically, Lips McCree has been outrageously strong.
Isolating a player off, likely Fate here, but nothing's working out for them. They're getting booped off, they're getting spawn cap, and here we go, maybe they can get Fate.
Oh, that is a fucking gigantic flux. They're just... Shanghai are rolling them here because they're so aggressive. They're taking the tempo to Seoul, fighting them in the choke points, getting value out of their ultimates and generating other ults based off it as well. They did use 3 ults in that fight, but one of them is attack visor, so it doesn't make that much difference. Plus, when you're getting just neutral wins off of that. But they're not allowing Seoul to get into position. The thing is here, though, if we're trying to take lessons away for the June Joust itself, Shanghai is not going to be the aggressor on a control map against Dallas. Shanghai is not going to be the team fighting aggressively into Dallas's Winston Diva comp. Dallas's composition plays way faster than Shanghai. Even though Shanghai are playing this comp really quickly, getting big value out of fast rotations, fighting them in choke points, shit like that, Dallas's comp is way quicker. Shanghai are always going to be on the defensive. So a lot of the stuff that Shanghai are doing really well here, they're not going to have the space to do against Dallas. The opening team fight, Shanghai are going to be pushed back defensively here. If they're not, then if they try and take space out by the statues at the front, then Dallas are going to look for a bit of poke, generate a coalescence, and try and go for an engagement against them. I don't see this map playing out the same way. But that doesn't necessarily mean Shanghai are going to lose. It just means that all of the good stuff that Shanghai are doing right now, they're not really going to be options against Dallas. They're going to have to find different ways of applying pressure to the Dallas Fuel.
Looking like it was a solo use onto Anamo, as 2U was only able to find one. Sound barrier now out. Blizzard coming through to help try to survive. Prophet does have the immortality field, but it does not.
Mr. Sideshow, what do you mean LeeJaegon played well? The best main tank in the league, Super, told me he was bad and a feeder. Please, Mr. Sideshow, explain how this could happen. NA, by the way. LeeJaegon's always been good. He just does play a really aggressive style. Oh my god, he's just taking a 1v1 against Animo there at the very end as well. But LeeJaegon does play like a hyper aggro style that can be punished. But if you're not playing a comp with a Zen that can just discard him permanently, then punishing him is very difficult. The key with any hero is getting the most value you can before you get punished. And LeeJaegon is really good at that. He just sometimes oversteps his boundaries and does get punished. But if you're playing against a worse team, you should try to do as much crazy stuff as you can get away with. I think it's really hard at the moment, actually, to say who the best main support has been. I do like the Nisha pick. It's just that so much of playing main support is also being able to play Lucio, and I don't think he's demonstrated an ability to play Lucio at a top level.
Prophet is still on the May here. I'm starting to believe this May is going to be more of a detriment to the team than a help.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much damage being pushed up from the side of the Shanghai Dragons, and Prophet, he needs to get in on top of people, and he just has not been able to have that happen yet. But we'll find one, the freeze.
Put respect on my man Toby.
As LeeJaegon finds another boom, he sends Fitz off the side of the
I don't think Toby has been the best main support, though. I mean, I think Toby's good, but I don't think he's been the best.
You need to have some double hit scan to control LeeJaegon. You're never going to catch him with a May. You cannot freeze this guy, and you need to take him out of the fight. If he continues to do stuff like this, there is no...
Have any of the APAC teams actually played much Lucio? Not really.
We talked about that one Titans fan in the audience. They're wishing right now.
I don't know which APAC team would have played the most Lucio. Maybe Shanghai.
That would be really good. Yep.
These whole boops are so nice. But again, it's that they're constantly applying pressure to Seoul Dynasty as they're rotating to get into position. Against the North American teams that play Winston Diva comps on all of these maps, on all of these rounds of control, I mean, how do you apply the same pressure as they rotate? I don't think it's as easy.
Has to roll out of the Blizzard, however, but now here comes the Tac Visor. Prophet instantly going to be gone. Gesture dead.
Like, what could you do to Dallas as they're rotating in? I guess you can go for similar kind of plays. It just feels like they won't work as well. They have such a huge amount more pressure, and they're so much faster to get into position. Plus, they have a Diva on their side to be able to stop stuff. I don't know. I don't think we're actually learning anything here about how Shanghai would deal with the North American teams. But what we can say is that they are extremely proactive, and they're very good against Orisa comps.
Sorry, not to... I'm molding because he is still on the May. He's still on this.
At least use the Blizzard.
Do you think the addition of Unta has led to the success of the Reign? That's what I said on Plat Chat weeks ago. Like 2 weeks ago or something. I said that I thought part of the reason that Atlanta were doing so well is because Unta was adding some of the system from the LA Valiant into... I love that LeeJaegon emotes here. Which dies to Prophet. That's so fucking troll. Covert Listener, thank you for the 6 months. Thank you very much.
Look, I'm going to be honest. If this is the same sponsorship that Titans have,
that has to be the most.
Hook shot.
Your house is cursed? Mate, actually, I've got a message at the moment that I need to look at right now, which is about the hornets that have moved into our walls. Yep, you heard that one right. The hornets that have moved into our walls. Okay, and we told the landlord, the rental place or whatever, and they've booked a wasp nest removal attempt. The hornets also keep just slapping the front window. When me and Beth are sat there me and Beth are kind of sat there in our living room watching TV or whatever, and we've got a big front window there, and the Hornets keep whacking into the front window just again and again, trying to get into the house for some reason. That's not even the wall. They're not anywhere near that wall. They have nested on the other side of the house, but they are coming round to the window that we're sat at and trying to get in, smacking their face on the front window repeatedly. And the cat keeps looking over like, what the fuck is that? I don't know whether it is Hornets. I should say I'm not a biologist. I haven't identified them. They just look like enormous wasps. So, which is why I'm saying Hornets. They might not actually be Hornets. They might just be some freakish kind of Texan wasp. I don't know. But they are bloody big, and I don't want to mess with them. Like, really big.
Anybody here? Taking his time, holding on to the ground.
They're taking an off angle. True. Okay, so Shanghai here are running Widow Echo. So if they play... Oh my god, what is going on with these free cam shots? They're giving me motion sickness. So the advantage of running these Widowmaker compositions is that they apply a huge amount of pressure if the defending team tries to play the point against them. But this is where Seoul, I think, should be trying to play aggressively against Shanghai and recognizing that they don't really have the damage that they do with the Ashe. Also, wow. Lip with the 360 swivel. And Fleda gets the kill on Fitz. Fitz must have been pulled, and Fleda just beamed him down, and the immortality field was just too late.
Grab the mega pack and be okay, but Fleda, he comes in on top of Fitz is distracted.
Shanghai look really coordinated in terms of how they're taking positioning on the map. Oh my god. Another halt into stickies to kill creative? Wow, they kill each other. That's crazy.
Lip tries to escape. Will manage to pull away from that hold in time.
Lip's Widowmaker didn't really do that much in terms of damage, but it did force the positioning really heavily of Seoul. That was a crazy quick capture from Shanghai. They were so, what's the word? Decisive in how they took positioning there against Seoul. And Seoul just let them in the front door. Shanghai are a really smart team when it comes to the positioning of their tanks. If you give Fate and Void enough time to set up, they're gonna find fantastic positions to play from. Oh, they're rolling them. I'm surprised that Lip has stayed on Widow here, but they don't even need Whip. They literally could be playing 5v6 right now and winning. That's a ridiculous round. Seoul weren't even in that game.
Shanghai Dragons are unrelenting.
That's really nice echo play as well from Fleda.
This is a tough position.
Following up on all the space that the tanks created. I think playing against Shanghai, you need to deny them that space in the first place. Again, though, this doesn't really tell you anything about how Shanghai are going to deal with Dallas. Because Shanghai are the aggressors in all of these scenarios. Even when they were defending, they're attacking, right? They're always trying to get into Seoul's face and play really fast against them. But against Dallas, Dallas are going to be running a Moira Lucio composition. They're going to be fighting into Shanghai. They're going to be fighting to stop them taking that positioning. They're not going to just let the Orisa and the D.Va, or rather the Orisa and the Sigma, in through the choke. They're going to dive them as they come through. So how does that play? What does Shanghai do there? It just changes the match so much.
Anima Jesse died 3 times, and 2 died once. So, yeah, 2 gave one of his deaths away. So Anima Jesse, you guys want to go.
At least, though, this is showcasing that Shanghai really understand how to get value out of the Orisa comps, how to play proactively. They're playing at a high tempo, which is a good thing. Even if they end up having to be the defenders, it shows that they are able to, you know, think and react really quickly.
208 for the entire attack. So, I mean,
what is the stronger comp, the Orisa heavy comps or the Moira dive? I think it's map dependent. I keep thinking that somebody is going to expose Dallas because their composition shouldn't be good on hybrid maps or on escort maps. But they keep winning.
Look at the adjustment of the Hanzo coming in.
I guess Gladiators did comprehensively slap them around when it came to Hollywood, but
Try and take somebody out of the fight quickly. Let's see
every time I feel like they should lose on Escort, they win.
some value here. As Lip playing, you know, a bit of a
I think on these maps, you can run the Orisa, but the Moira Lucio dive has so much snowball potential.
does get demacked. Decent, solid
And it's
poke
very
start
hard to
side of Seoul,
bait
and then
bad
they
engagements
follow
out
up
of
on
the
LeeJaegon.
Moira
So now with
team.
the baby diva dead, they can't even try to get that res
Let's
in.
actually, sorry, I'm thinking about the question that you posed in the chat instead of the game that we're actually watching. I want to take a look at how the Shanghai Dragons defend
I
here.
don't know if we want to bring up Matt Mercer again.
They're running Echo Ash with Bap Mercy. This is a very, very meta composition right now. Got a huge amount of strengths. Void is going to go in to try and separate the Seoul Dynasty and stop them from taking that early space early on.
Adjustment of the Hanzo coming in
So that's good play by Void.
be able to break through these barriers.
Bit of a halt into the Storm Arrows there to finish, or to do damage, force the Fortify coming out of Fate.
Find some value here.
And they're giving space here. Shanghai are backing
A
off.
bit of a rarer angle, I suppose. When it comes down to the Ashes playing out over the
Lip
side
is in
of
a
the
really
fight.
weird angle here.
Does get demacked.
He's so exposed to a halt.
Poke start here for the side of Seoul.
But it's actually LeeJaegon that goes down.
Decent, solid poke
So LeeJaegon,
start here.
so they're having like a Mercy Echo battle over on the flank.
The side of Seoul.
And LeeJaegon just gets
Decent,
melted.
solid poke start here
He
for
takes 2 Tri-Shot and a
side of
focusing
Seoul,
beam,
and
and
then they
Prophet
have
just
to follow up
poos
on
on him.
LeeJaegon. So now with the baby diva dead, they can't even try to get that res in. Fate trying to
And that's a
pull back on
huge
it,
win,
Fate
because now it
steps
just
down,
opens up that
and
entire
able to find
flank
the
for
kill.
Prophet
This
to
is
play in.
looking like a very fast
Fleda
attack.
wins? Animal finishes off Fleda?
The question
Okay.
again just becomes, can they
Sure, why not?
This is absolutely what they need. I mean, Seoul got to bounce back somehow.
No, I haven't recorded Plat Chat yet. It's in 2
Give
hours.
them a decent time back to work. Good enough. 452 is going to be the target for the Seoul Dynasty.
Consider, Dallas got lucky.
Potential snowball. Shanghai Dragons still working on those. A Fleda that's
I
actually
think
far behind Prophet. He's
Dallas
got
were
lots of
extremely
size.
close to losing Junkertown against the Gladiators.
Shooting out,
I
in business for sure.
I really do not think that...
5:30 roughly.
I don't think that...
In the next 30 seconds, but if things
I actually have more faith in Atlanta than Dallas. And I know that might sound stupid because Dallas have just beaten everybody that they've come up against recently, but I just think that at some point Dallas are going to get exposed. Their lack of flexibility. And the better the teams are that they play against, the more likely that is to happen, I think. Gladiators was so close. Oh, great accretion to cancel that. Shanghai moved Lip over to the Reaper.
Break down the tank line here for the Dynasty. Athletic goes on a bit of a deep flank.
What does that do? They've had to use Immortality Field to keep Lip alive, but he does manage to kill 2. All of the fights are going to be close range against people who are actually on the point. Oh my god, really? It's the first time a Gravitic Flux has ever been used on that high ground. You were sad with the Gladiators' performance? I don't think you should be sad about the Gladiators' performance. They played really well. The difference between the Outlaws and the Gladiators was massive. Absolutely massive.
It's not looking like a 4 minute anymore because they would need more ultimates. Currently,
Dallas have an entire week to figure out the best way to counter the other comps and to practice it. Yeah, but that applies the other way around as well. Shanghai have an entire week to figure out how to beat Dallas's only composition that they run. Dallas don't even know what Shanghai are going to be running. Yeah, Dallas does have crazy good tempo control. They're so fast with their decision making. But that's actually what I'm liking about this Shanghai team that I'm watching right now. Even when they're playing this double shield composition, they're still playing a really high tempo game. I think that's absolutely what you need to be able to deal with a team like Dallas. But it's not the only thing you need. You also need a really good plan of being able to deal with their aggression and absorb it. Even if Pine is in Korea, he's not going to have ping issues if they play from Hawaii. There's no way that Pine plays in the June Joust. I think that's absolute madness. Dallas beat everybody in North America, looked like an incredible team, only playing that one composition, and then changed their entire game plan going into Hawaii to play a player that's never played in the Overwatch League since 2018. You got to be shitting me. You got to be shitting me. It can't happen. It can't. That would be Rush just off the goop. If they do that and win, I don't even know what to say. Dallas Fuel are just gonna win the entire fucking league, no problemo.
lead to anything exactly in the kill.
Would you bet your hair on it? No, because Dallas do crazy shit, but it doesn't change the fact that it would be crazy. Yeah, they did lose to Shock. You're right, Agent. They did lose to the Shock. It was a very close game.
What charge was he on? I'm trying to
But yeah, they haven't looked unbeatable.
It's rough regardless.
Hence, part of the reason why I'm saying that I think at some point teams will figure out the key to being able to exploit Dallas a little bit. I could see it on like Junkertown. Even then, though, all right, let me go for this just a little bit. Another team picks Junkertown. Hell, maybe Dallas themselves pick Junkertown, because if they have to pick an escort map, which one do they want to pick? Fuck it, Junkertown, why not? Pine gets put in. Who gets taken out? You think Doha gets taken out and Sparkle runs Echo? I mean, you guys saying Doha is less flexible. I'm not even really sure whether that's true. I guess both of their Echoes have been really good. What other kind of things would you want to run on Junkertown? You got Pine on Widow. In my opinion, I would probably want to take Sparkle out to put Pine in and play Doha. But then you lose the just like fuck you energy of Sparkle's Genji and Doom. But you would never play Genji and Doom with Pine in. So you lose that whole aspect to your play anyway. So I don't think Doha Hanzo for double sniper. Yeah, I was contemplating that as well, but I don't think teams are really going to run double sniper. I think the Echo is very valuable at being able to create pressure on other sides of the map and make space for your Widow to get in behind the opponent team or to get a pick, that kind of stuff. I just don't, even when we're running through this as a thought experiment, I just don't see why Dallas would consider that a better option than just going with what's worked so far. I don't think it's long-term excellent for them to rely on just Sparkle and Doha skill diffing their opponents on Junkertown, but I think there are equal problems with just fielding Pine randomly in a tournament game.
Look to get this flux online. There it is. Pushes them up into the air. They're looking to finish off Gesture. Can't quite make it happen, but they will knock Profit out of his own duplicate. But back over to the side now, just looking to deal with Profit, trying to get those shots through with the left clicks, unable to make it happen. Pulls back.
I am... see, chat, I feel like I'm not commentating on this game very much, talking about Shanghai's decision-making, but at the end of the day, none of this is relevant for them playing against Dallas. The only thing that's relevant is the fact that they do look extremely coordinated, really good at playing at high tempo, and they understand what the win conditions of their composition are. They're playing positionally really well. Individually, they're playing well with like Fleta getting good value, Fates, Halts all being comboed really well as well. So those things, the big general points to take away, Shanghai look like a good team right now. But none of this match, and none of any of the matches that Shanghai have played, give you any data to understand whether they're going to be able to beat Dallas. Because they just haven't played against a team that plays well in the Moira Lucio. There's no way of knowing how good they're going to be against that.
Just one so far, but does force the immortality field.
Yeah, Void gets himself placed up top there on the archway. Drops back as he does fall low. But it's just buying time. You know, you pop that.
In order to beat Dallas,
10 more seconds off the clock.
I think also you need to be able to beat them on control. Because otherwise you need to win on Escort and Hybrid, where you're favored, and you need to win on Assault, where I don't think you are favored, although it's a little even. And if you don't win all three of those games, you just lose a BO5, because they win both the control maps with Moira Lucio. Yeah, I think that Shanghai really have to... I think the win condition for Shanghai is that they're so fast that they are able to keep pace with Dallas. So what I mean by that is, like, when Dallas goes for these speed boost engages with the Coalescence, Shanghai already have a plan in mind, and they're able to disrupt it. They're able to stop Dallas from going on these engagements, whether that's because LeeJaegon has incredible whip shots to deny Fearless, or whether that's because they play the Lucio BAP instead and speed boost disengage and can create a lot of space, and then it's actually Flutter and Lip that do phenomenal work getting on off angles and doing a lot of damage. They need some idea of what their protocol is when Dallas attack them, because I don't think even as fast as Shanghai are playing right now, I don't think you can be the aggressor in a game against Dallas. Their comp is just faster than any Orisa comp can be. You have to react if you're playing Orisa. And so coming up with plans for like what you should do to react is the key. Now, if they go to a map like Hollywood, this is where you can absolutely beat Dallas. The thing with Dallas is that they are favored to go 2-0 up against any team in the tournament, I think. They're just favored. I mean, maybe Atlanta can mirror them in the Morio Lucio and beat them on control or something. But if we assume that Dallas are the better Morio Lucio team, like the best Morio Lucio team in the June Joust, which could be possible, it's only really Atlanta that would challenge them. They're favored to win on control, and they are probably favored to win on any of the assault maps as well. Hanamura's crazy good for that comp. Anubis is really good for that composition as well. You can defend extremely well with that comp as well as they're coming in through the tight choke points. It's so difficult to get value out of attacking with Orisa against the... They just bait you in to move in through the choke points and then dive onto you. The key to me is that Shanghai need to win one of the early maps. They need to win one of control or assault. And I think the win condition has to be that they are ready for Dallas Fuel's engages. They need to, for example, if they're attacking with an Orisa comp, if you imagine that this is a doorway, right? The general game plan, I think, for Shanghai Dragons could be you poke your heads through the doorway, Dallas Fuel try and dive onto you, because Dallas want to dive onto Orisa comps after they've committed through the doorway, or at least they're like just committed through the doorway. If you dive on them too early, then they can, if you dive on them when they're in the doorway, then they'll just back up a little bit, and then now Dallas are the team that's stuck in the choke point. That's what you want if you're Shanghai. You want to bait them into diving too early. So you want to try and poke your heads through the doorway a little bit, and then back off to the point where you're taking a fight where Dallas are trying to extend so that it's Dallas are the ones pushing through the choke. If they get you so that you have a choke point at your backs and you're playing the Orisa comp, it is going to be brutal. That's how they've beaten so many teams in that non-mirror match. So maybe Shanghai's the team to do it. Maybe if they play more of this. Obviously, the Brig is incredibly good at giving you AoE sustain heals in the middle of team fights and outlasting that first initial dive from Dallas. But the Lucio could definitely be key if you are able to speed your team backwards a little bit just to create some space for your DPS. And you might not even need to amp speed. You might be able to save your amp for heals during the fight. I'm not sure. I don't really know that much about the micro of Lucio as it would play in that theoretical comp.
Starting with the Widowmaker takes a shot, not going to get the hit, so we'll just go ahead and swap it up. It's going to be the Hanzo again.
Can Shanghai play Morio Lucio comp? Have they played any? I don't think I've seen them play any. I don't think it would be a good idea for them to try and mirror unless they've had a huge amount of practice in this week. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think Atlanta's going to sweep everyone and win. Do you mean sweep everyone as in win every single map? Because that is definitely a hot take. I do think that Atlanta are going to be good in this tournament. I might even be predicting Atlanta to win this tournament. I need to think about it a little more, but I think that could be a pretty valid prediction. But I do think it's a very hot take to say that they're going to sweep everybody. That's going too far. People do this in Overwatch all the time, where they set their expectations too high, and then they get really disappointed. It's the same thing with the Houston fans this week, actually. When we rated Houston as the 5th in NA in the Plat Power Rankings, my mentions blew up. I think it got posted on Reddit as well, which is why it like tapped into a larger casual fan base of Houston fans. But I can tell you, chat, they were mauled in. The Houston fans were so mad that we put them in 5th. They're like, Our team is 7-1. How the fuck are you putting them 5th, you clowns? And I'm like, that thought process only gives you unrealistic expectations, because now you're expecting them to win their knockout games when actually, no, they were not favored against Dallas. That's crazy talk. And yet, if you look at just the win record and you think that they are, you're deceiving yourself. You're setting too high expectations for your squad, and you're going to boom the players, because then the Houston fans are just going to get fucking angry at all of the Houston players and be like, why didn't you win, you trash cans? And it's like, well, you shouldn't have expected them to win that game. They were the underdogs. I think setting your expectations correctly is so important to be able to recognize whether something is like whether something truly is excellent or not. If Pine comes out and he claps, that is excellent. That is unexpected and excellent. And it deserves celebrating in that way. And if he doesn't perform, then he shouldn't receive the same criticism as you would expect the fans to give him, because there's no fucking way people can come back into the league after 3 years and just dominate. It's madness. So Shanghai, here's what I like about this push from Shanghai. This is why I think the NYXL have missed a trick by not getting value out of, like, the attacking compositions of using the Reaper and that kind of stuff. I think you're missing the trick in that if you play BAP Mercy with the Echo and Mercy can create a lot of different flanking attacks. So here you see Fleder towards the back here, but if he connects with the Mercy and is able to go around the back and create pressure in Cafe, that opens up sightlines for Lip to be able to play down, because Fitz isn't there anymore, because Fitz is pressured by the Echo. You can try to do that with Reaper if you're crazy. You can try and teleport the Reaper in to pressure Fitz so that your player can set up on the sightline, but it's just worse than playing the Echo. So I really like Shanghai's approach a lot more. I think it's much more versatile, and it gives you these kind of options in the team fight where you can play positionally a lot more. So there goes Fleder. Connects with LeeJaegon, coming around the side. And now Fitz is under a lot of pressure. They've forced out Immortality Field as well. Not Fleder, but the rest of the team has forced out Immortality Field. And Lip has access to this sightline now. Look at this. This is so good for him. He can pound damage into Cafe. He has priority over this angle now. As Fitz comes back onto it, he's got to be worried about sonic arrows and stuff like that, giving away his position and his head just getting ripped off. Lip can continue pounding storm arrows into here, and Lip can't safely get onto this angle without Fleder applying that kind of pressure into the back. So it's all really nicely done by Shanghai. They're demonstrating that they are a top-level team when it comes to these Orisa comps. And Shanghai have always been good at this kind of style. The double shields, just working their players into really good positions, getting access to angles. That's what's made Shanghai great for over a year now. So yeah, this gives me a lot of faith for Shanghai being able to beat Dallas on maps like Hollywood, Junkertown, Dorado, these kind of picks. Like the classic picks where you would have expected a team like Gladiators to win, I would expect Shanghai to win as well. The thing is, though, Dallas actually did still manage to beat the Gladiators on Junkertown. I don't think they should have. I think Gladiators kind of threw that away, but Dallas is still crazy. They'll still win on maps where they're not favored, because they're just that good at their comp. Yo, Monkey Milo, thank you very much for the gifted sub to Detune. Thank you, thank you. Very kind of you. So how does Shanghai break this? They go for a Dragon Strike up top. That gives Void space to be able to take high ground control there. Again, really nicely played. They have a plan for every area of the map. Fleder gets rezzed in the middle of this, but that is so much damage coming down from the Supercharger. Double Supercharger. Just absurd. So Seoul Dynasty have held onto this high ground control. They're going to be able to reset, go back up to the high ground, as long as they don't overextend. They should be able to go back up to the high ground, and even though Shanghai had a good strategy for taking control of that, I think I would have preferred Fate to go up top with Void. Actually, would I? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe there's no need for the Arista go up top. Maybe it's better to just keep objective pressure.
Sigma on the other end looking for that flux. It's an interesting position for the Seoul Dynasty as they're all kind of on the
Okay, forced out Immortality Field really early on. Creative, super weak.
Flux now just going to be used solo here on the 2.
So why did Shanghai have such easy access to this high ground here? Why is Seoul not setting back up? I don't know. What's the reasoning here for Gesture not being on high ground again? It seems like they're worried about the payload continuing to be pushed around this corner, but if you set up on the high ground up here, you still have so much spam damage coming down onto these guys that whenever you do eventually drop, and Gesture drops to the low ground, you have an advantage. Whereas, I think you're giving up the high ground too easily here. It's just too simple for Lip and Fleder to get up there and pressure 2U away. Look at what is this positioning from Seoul? What are they doing back here? They've just had to reconnect with Creative and 2U because they got forced off the high ground because they weren't set up there in the first place. I think they've made it a bit too easy there. But anyway, Shanghai still have some nice ideas of how they want to take high ground control. The combination of the Hanzo and the Echo is good for that too. Just have a lot of mobility, you can contest high ground easily. So now 2U is up there with Gesture, but now the payload is pushed too far. So what the fuck are Seoul doing? I mean, this is terrible by Seoul. They're now dropping down, but they prioritized high ground at all the wrong times. Oh, they might still get this. Oh, Prophet is so weak, so is Animo. Yeah. Fleder and Lip are doing so much work. They just took multiple off angles in the middle of that fight. Echo and Reaper are doing... sorry, the Echo and Hanzo are doing so much work there. I mean, if we just wind that back a little bit, there's no way that Gesture should be up on this high ground up here when the cart is over here. That is just obviously nonsense. But they tried to path over towards this high ground and play from here to drop down. But as they do that, just try and take a look at the position that Fleder and Lip are playing from. So they're using these tanks as like bait essentially. Fleder gets rezzed in the middle of this. Here's Lip. Oops. Lip is around. Oops. Fuck me. Lip is around this corner, coming around here. And they've baited all of Seoul Dynasty to commit to the point. And now they got Fleder up in the air. Lip was harassing around this side. Then he moves around and he's harassing around this side. He's just always making sure that he's on an off angle, never with the rest of his team. Using the rest of his tanks as bait. And then slamming them with damage. And then as they collapse, Fleder comes in from the top, up and around the side, and Lip comes in from this side. And all of the Seoul players are just in the middle. And they just get sandwiched by damage from both sides. Mostly damage boosted as well. It's really nicely played. But also big misplay by Seoul Dynasty because they only committed to the payload once it was practically through the checkpoint. So again, Seoul making it too easy for Shanghai, but still Shanghai demonstrating some really good fundamentals.
That's another too late flux. Literally a 1v4 flux there.
You think New York could get a win in Hawaii?
It's a situation, and this is why I brought up, it's a weird position that Seoul were, you know, all so far away from the payload.
I don't think New York will win in Hawaii unless they have improved dramatically in their week off. They look significantly weaker than every other team. They look a tier weaker than every other team. Wow, they use the Immortality Field to keep Animo alive there.
So yeah, you bring one DPS back into the fight, but you lose out on the other one. So you pushing up, doesn't manage to get the melee kill.
Lip moves over to Ash here as well, now that there aren't as many high grounds to work with.
So much pressure, just pressing forward up against the Dynasty, just truly is not really.
And also they've moved away from the Mercy here too. So Shanghai going for more of a Brap Brig backline. If they play this comp against Dallas, it's 3-0 Dallas. On this map? Nah. On this map, this composition is very good for Shanghai.
A good cap when they get there, if they can get there, because there's a lot of ultimates for Seoul. They just have to connect these, and they will connect on Fleder.
I mean, they might need to play something a little more tanky when they play against Dallas. They might not be able to get away with playing like the Hanzo Echo, for example. But if they take a page out of Gladiator's book and run something like the Reaper Torbjorn, I think they can absolutely beat the dives of Dallas here. They look like they can play at the right tempo.
Seems like it should be able to work. Yeah,
It's just about whether they give enough respect to Dallas to run what would otherwise be terrible compositions.
He's got nowhere to go though. Stuck up in the air. Fitz will finish him off. And for now, there will be a slight reprieve here. This onslaught that is otherwise been.
So it seems like LeeJaegon has gone over to the Brigitte here because they don't feel like there's value from damage boosting Fleder in this cramped point C. But I think you can still find a large amount of value. Like, I think, again, something that I've been praising the Shanghai Dragons positional play, but something they didn't really go for here because they haven't been able to, they haven't had the space to do it, is looping Void up and around the top. And I think if Fleder had the damage boost, he'd be able to make space for something like that to happen. If you get your Sigma up on this high ground position, you control so much of the space that's happening. I wonder if that's what they're going to go for now. Doesn't seem like it. Void has his Gravitic Flux. Oh, Fitz with a nice shot.
If Zen wasn't supposed to flank.
The Torb eventually lost to the Doomfist though, didn't it? But if they run Doom on attack here of Hollywood, you're relying on Sparkle's Doom to just produce magic. I don't think it's fair to say that all Dallas have to do is run Doom and they'll win. Like, Sparkle also has to play the game of his fucking life. And the amount of poke damage you're going to take is... Well, I suppose you don't take as much poke damage because you're playing into a Reaper Torp, but... Oh, Gesture walked out of the Immortality field.
I mean, the pocket healing tried to come through in the back end there from an ammo, but wasn't going to be good.
They're punishing Soul on this aggressive defense here. Hello, creative. They're just trying to buy time. They'll still get another team fight before the end. You really betting against the Fearless Handbin tank line? I mean, I think Dallas are still the favorites to win the tournament. The odds-on favorites. But I think Shanghai got a chance. A pretty decent chance. Shanghai have definitely got the best chance out of all the APAC teams. I don't think NYXL would do anything against Dallas. I think it could be a similar situation to the main melee, actually. If I was going to predict the match of Dallas against Shanghai, I think Shanghai will put up some level of resistance, and it'll feel like a really close, good game, but Dallas will come out on top. You think Shanghai are more likely than Atlanta? No. I think Atlanta will put up a better fight against Dallas than Shanghai will. Mostly because Atlanta look competent at the Lucio Moira mirror. And that makes a huge difference because that means that you have just different strategic options when it comes to you have totally different strategic options when it comes to control maps. Like, how the fuck is Shanghai going to win a map on control against Dallas's Lucio Moira comp? It's going to be so hard. Shanghai are going to have to play the best they've ever played. They need a hard read on what Dallas are doing, and they also need... There isn't enough space on most control maps to be able to disengage from that composition effectively. It's so hard for Shanghai to have a good chance at beating Dallas when they need to win on all of the non-control maps. Alright. Oh yeah, maybe we could have gone with Bumper for our best main tank if we were only looking at peak performance. That would have bothered some people, wouldn't it? Is there any way anyone can pass Fearless in the June Joust for MVP frontrunner? Yeah. I think... Oh, well, do you mean MVP of the whole season or of the June Joust? Because I think people on his own team over the course of the season might be able to surpass him. Like, maybe like a Sparkle or a Fielder might be able over the course of the season to gain more credit than Fearless, but that seems unlikely at this point. The other big potential people are players on Shanghai. People like Lip, who was amazing in the May Melee. Obviously, Fleder could at any point. Void I really like as well. You know, if the Shanghai Dragons come out and win the June Joust and look phenomenal doing it. The other low-key candidate is actually Pelican. If we get into more and more Echo metas, there is some potential for Pelican using the June Joust as a springboard to launch an MVP candidacy. Because he has been so unbelievably good. But I think those are the only major threats to Fearless right now.
Burst down this barrier.
Echo ult nerf might be enough to move away from her now. And also just Tracer and Sombra coming back in. It could absolutely be enough to move away from Echo too. Yeah. I'm not saying that is going to happen. I'm just saying if that was to happen, Pelican could have MVP a shot at it if Atlanta continued to perform, and it was by virtue of him looking incredible doing that. Shanghai are really fast to respond to positional changes. Like when Seoul Dynasty make that rotate to go up towards the top, Shanghai are so fast to fight them. So on Hollywood as well, now that we have this big wide open view, I was talking about this a little bit in the cast as well when Dallas played against the Gladiators. When Dallas play, if you imagine that the Seoul Dynasty is Dallas Fuel right now, there are a couple of ways of playing the Moira Lucio compositions. You can either poke and prod a little bit, generate the coalescence, and then go for some big engage with the speed boost. What Dallas like to do, though, is... Or you could try and, you know, take over Cafe first and play very positionally. What Dallas like to do on Hollywood is that they'll go for really fast engages in the neutral. The very first fight that Dallas like to take on Hollywood normally goes something like this. They'll teleport Doha up here, or they'll teleport Doha into here, or some like really advanced position. And then after Doha teleports, they'll just go fucking nyaum straight onto your face and try and dive you, where they'll have a lot of pressure in your face, and the idea is that they're attacking from multiple directions. Maybe Sparkle comes around the flank from this side as well, and they're going all out, and they're aiming to get a pick within that first 5, max 10 seconds engagement. Yeah, I mean, mostly 5. Like, the first 5 seconds of the team fight, see if they can get a pick, see if they can snowball it, and they're going to use all of their abilities immediately. Which is why I really liked the Gladiators approach of going for the Reaper and the Torbjorn, because it gave them the ability to just sustain that opening initiation. It's not as good against a team that's going to play slowly into you, because they're going to be able to force your Torbjorn to use the, what's it called, overload or whatever, and then they'll engage afterwards with the coalescence. But Dallas don't really do that. They're just kind of all in when it comes to Hollywood Point A. So if we think about how the Shanghai Dragons would deal with this, their composition isn't really set up to do that. If Dallas just went and dived really heavily onto Shanghai right now, they'd probably be able to destroy the Shanghai Dragons tank line, I think, because there's no damage to stop Dallas from going for that initiation. Lip's damage is just going to end up getting piled in from the side, but it won't be enough to stop them. And they don't have the Brig for extra sustain in the middle of that engagement. They don't have 2 really tanky DPS that can kind of peel for the tanks a little bit too. So I think Shanghai would absolutely have to make a compositional swap here. But I think that's obvious. I would hope that Shanghai recognize that when it comes to maps like Hollywood. But the tempo that they're playing at is really good. Like, they're making adjustments really quickly on the fly. And if Dallas tried to go for a more slow-paced approach, I think Shanghai would be really fast at adjusting, because they are in these games as well. But my faith in Shanghai is predicated on them playing slightly different compositions.
Over in the cafe, manages to find Gesture. Now he's looking for an ammo. Gets the tag through and does get the kill. Hits with the Storm Arrows, will get rid of Fleta as they continue to trade blows back and forth, Can
anyone challenge Rush for Coach of the Year? I missed a resub, don't know. Oh, I did. Onyxrex, thank you for the 17 months. Glad to see your dumb face back on stream, buddy. Super excited for the Dallas homestand. Yeah, I don't know whether it's a homestand or a viewing party or what. Aaron Place, thank you for the 28 months in a row as well. That's crazy support. Thank you. Reign are simply unbelievable. You can really feel the momentum building for their first tournament win. I mean, I wouldn't say they're unbelievable, but I think they've got a good chance of it. Have you seen the leaks of the Valorant weapon changes? Yeah, you mean the price changes? Yeah, I assume they're going to alter slightly how the economy works with that as well or something. I don't know. None of them look too egregious though. I would like to see a scope sound with the op though as well.
Holding them off here on this back flank.
Does this Doomfist rush comp that Dallas are using have potential to be a legitimate meta for the June Joust bracket? No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone else is going to do that. It's only... I mean, who else would even run it? There's nobody else that... There's nobody else that even plays Doomfist that would be able to play it in that style that would be good at it.
They would have given him footsteps.
So much work done there by Fleta. Now he's looking for...
Yeah, I can't even think. I mean, who else would run it? The Doomfist pick is just them going for something that they know Sparkle is incredible at, where they can force engagements in tight corners and try and get value out of the Doom against long-range compositions. But it relies on Sparkle being a nutcase. You can't just... It's not a real... It's not a hard counter.
Wasn't supposed to flank. They would have given him footsteps.
Also, they never should have won that Junkertown push because Gladiators should have held them at point 8. They just butchered their ult economy a bit. Tired Frustrated, AGM994 and Panda Bear, thank you for the subs as well. Thank you very much.
No team had supports. All 4 supports were down, and that was a rough position to be in. Here comes that Bob. Has been stunned up.
Who are you?
Seoul Dynasty's progress.
Gets around. Dynamite not going to find anything. Lip coming over.
Holy
God,
cow.
Lip is good.
Unbelievable.
No way.
Just rips apart Fizz.
Lip
Now
should be... This kind of performance from Lip is also what Shanghai need if... On maps where they're going to be leaning into the long-range hit scan, stuff like Junkertown or Hollywood or stuff like that, if they... or Dorado, that kind of thing. You know how Glister was going on these flank rotations and just pounding Dallas from behind? That's the kind of thing you need to see Lip do as well. But Lip can do that. He is of the quality to be able to completely destroy a push if you leave him unattended. They're just going to rely on him to go huge in some of these fights.
They has absolutely gorgeous tracking. Beautiful tracking. Beat down. That was gorgeous. This has got to be it.
Yeah, point B on Junkertown is very good for Doomfist. But like I said, I don't think that Dallas should have ever got to point B on Junkertown. If you go back and look at that VOD, they were very, very close to being full health, and Atlanta misplayed. Sorry, not Atlanta. Gladiators misplayed. Hot take coming through, fresh off the press. What's this one, huh? Don't know if it's a hot take, but Shock's biggest issue is that FD God is far too aggressive to be a good counterpart for Violet. That's why their backline looks comparatively weak this season. Yeah, I'm not actually sure that that is their biggest issue, but it's definitely one of them. I do think FD God has found it difficult to change up his playstyle a little bit. I think what people didn't appreciate enough about Moth is that he picked his timings perfectly when he was looking for engagements. You know, he would wait to go aggressive until he identified a threat. Whereas a lot of what FD God does is try and maximize value all the time. It's similar to LeeJaegon. But Shock needs someone that's a little more thoughtful. But I also don't think that's a major problem. Can you guys see the difference, though? Were you able to perceive the difference in strength between Hangzhou and Shanghai? Sorry, not Hangzhou. New York and Shanghai? Because I felt like I was the mayor of Crazy Town when I was talking to... When I was talking to chat, and they were saying that I was massively underrating New York, I just feel like there was a wild tempo difference, coordination difference. Like, all of that stuff was way better for Shanghai than New York. I think New York are a tier below. I do think any of Atlanta, Dallas, and Shanghai could win the June Joust. They could. I don't think New York can. I just think they're a tier below. I'll be very pleasantly surprised if New York are even able to win a match in the June Joust.